we can assign them, we would have to. Okay.
Go ahead and get this meeting started.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With the crowd we have today, for the secretary, self-introduction, starting with Mr. Bradsky.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Charles Bradsky, as most of you know. Welcome.
I'm Kevin Brightsky. Yes, Ms. Barlow, the NERC staff.
Candace Declan, Mercy staff. At West Director of Work Transport.
Mike Cagle, City Buffalo. Dean Bunton, City of Hammond. Ryan Lissick, Driving, Indiana. Alan Bacchus for work.
Scott Weber, NERC staff. Kevin Polite, NERC staff.
Debbie Cobb.
County Luca, Mercy staff.
Eric Fullerton, American Constructor Point.
Jeff Hewitt, Sherrill.
Tom Schmidt and Tom Sherrill.
Courtney Anderson, Sonora. Leslie Knight.
Please.
Independent Company.
Yes, please give your name.
Oh, Leslie Knight.
We're all short here.
Jamie Wendy.
Wendy Miss, Town of Munster.
Amy Blaker, Lockmuller Group.
Jessica Clark, Lockmuller Group.
Bob Saney, Robinson Engineering.
Julio Cavala, City of East Chicago.
Ladies, House Robinson Engineering.
Elizabeth Bench, Karen Gable.
Terry Martin, Terry Gable. Jake Damerow, Public Grammar and Factor.
I think we had just taught everybody. Start with the minutes of the January 10th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion from the members of the committee? Second. Mr. Gable, make a motion. Are there any other comments, additions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we just had a late comer, Deb.
Rebecca Seeger.
And another one. Yes. Oh. I missed it, that's something. Got three. Do we have any public comment? If anybody's signing this, if anybody's here with public comment, we'll hear it regardless. What's up, Hannah? Raise your hand, or we'll just proceed. Planning, resolution 2304, updated transportation air quality conformity interagency consultation procedures. Mr. Weber.
Hi, good morning. So resolution 2304, which you'll find on pages 2 to 3 of your agenda packets, is a resolution approving that NERC sign onto updated transportation air quality conformity protocol and interagency consultation procedure documents. As you may know, our region is designated by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as non-attainment for ozone for the 2008 standard for Lake and Porter counties, as well as the 2015 standard for 5 townships in Lake County and 8 townships in Porter County. And LaPorte County is actually designated as non-attainment for the ozone standard from 1997. So it's required that we revisit these documents every so often. And in fact, these transportation air quality protocol and interagency consultation procedure documents haven't been updated since 2007. So it's definitely time that we update them. The reason why we did not print them fully in your meeting packets is because that would be wasting a lot of paper, but we did include them as links, as PDF links to the meeting announcement. So I'm going to briefly just walk you through what we're signing on, or what we're requesting that this committee sign on to, or approve signing on to today. So first of all, these 2 documents are basically template documents that the Federal Highway Administration and INDOT have distributed to all of the metropolitan planning organizations in Indiana, including NERC. So we we are not unique among all of the metropolitan planning organizations across the state that are going through this same process right now. Basically, these are template documents where we just changed the name to refer specifically to the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. So we didn't actually have to really change much else because we've already participated very fully through this process. Our staff, myself to be exact, was participated on the steering committees to assemble these documents. So I'll go through like the highlights of what these two documents are that Resolution 2304 is referring to, which you could have found by visiting the meeting announcement links. So attachment A is the Transportation Air Quality Conformity Protocol. This is basically the 30,000-foot view document of what is covered by the transportation conformity process and high-level commitments about how each of the interagency consultation group agencies will engage in the process. So, apologize for that's not working, but we'll go here. So on the third page of this document, it has a list of acronyms. So I know, I don't believe she's here, but Kay would be happy with this, of course, to see all the acronyms spelled out, because there's a lot of complicated acronyms that go into this process. On the fourth page, you can see who the members of the interagency consultation group are. So it's good that it spells this out in the document. That includes federal agencies, the Federal Highway Administration, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the Federal Transit Administration. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's going to be a little bit hard to read. State agencies include INDOT, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, and other multi-state regional state agencies. Regional planning commissions include NERC, of course us in this case. Local transit agencies where appropriate, so we definitely value our local transit agencies, and local air agencies where appropriate, and then transit operators. So those are the members of the interagency consultation group. So that's one of the highlights of this document. And then scrolling down further, this is a very important table in the document. This is the agency roles and responsibilities. So I won't read all of the agency roles and responsibilities, but I'll read out what the agency roles and responsibilities are for NERC, for us. So we're expected in this conformity process to run the travel demand model, update and amend the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program documents, which this committee is intimately familiar with. Prepares the conformity demonstrations for the transportation plan and or TIP, and then the responsibilities of the MTO, that means NERC, should be mutually agreed upon by us in consultation with other appropriate interagency consultation group parties. We are expected to prepare the air quality conformity analysis document for the non-attainment areas that I mentioned with respect to ozone in 2008 and 2015 in our planning area. We are expected to manage the public review and comment period, and the Transportation Policy Board will make the conformity determination and then adopt the transportation plan and the TIP via formal resolution. We already do that, but it's spelled out explicitly here. And we provide a final copy of the analysis document, the transportation plan, and TIP packages themselves to the review agencies, the interagency consultation group process. Charles has been good at facilitating that whenever TIP amendments come out quarterly. And then we're expected to maintain and manage the conformity process schedule. So that's a highlight of this protocol document as well. And then these are less important for NERC, but this document also has procedures about the state implementation plan consultation process. And in this process, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, or IDEM, takes the lead instead of NERC, but all the interagency consultation group partners are allowed the opportunity to weigh in. And then also the monitoring of transportation control measures. These are currently not applicable to our regions since we don't have any currently, but if we were to have any, this spells out how we would handle those. So that's kind of what the protocol document is about. That's attachment A that Resolution 2304 refers to. Attachment B that Resolution 2304 refers to is the Indiana Air Quality Conformity and Interagency Consultation Group Guidance from last year, but this is the first time it's being adopted. So this document is basically a much more detailed roadmap of how the interagency consultation group process with respect to air quality conformity plays out. So I'm not going to go through, this is a much longer document, and so I'm definitely not going to go through this whole document, but I'm going to look at a couple of highlights and explain what those are. And so on page 10 of this document, This is a very helpful flow chart for determining whether air quality conformity is required. I definitely can't read that right now, so let me see if it's even possible. But if we zoom in, thanks to the magic of technology, we can look at this very helpful flow chart. So when we're examining kind of updates to the Transportation Improvement Program or the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, we can look at whether they would simply be categorized as modifications. And then if that's the case, then no consultation is required. If there are amendments, then it kind of depends. So we would initiate consultation as we do. And then if that amendment includes only exempt projects, then the formal conformity finding may be required. That, of course, will be determined based on the feedback that we get from our interagency consultation partners. If the amendment includes a mix of exempt and non-exempt projects, well then conformity finding is required because there are some non-exempt projects. And if the amendment includes only non-exempt projects, well, then of course formal conformity finding is required because they're not exempt. So that's kind of a nice flow chart just for kind of helping us walk through whether or not we are required to seek a formal conformity determination. And then on page 16 of this document, it spells out the agency's roles and responsibilities again. So in this case, the Metropolitan Planning Organization would be NERC, and this is very similar to the one that I've already mentioned. But in this document, it says that we are to submit the informal interagency consultation submittals. We are to schedule and host any interagency consultation group meetings and prepare associated meeting minutes, which we do. We are to run the travel demand model. We are to update and amend the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program. And we are to prepare conformity determinations for the long-range transportation plan and the TIP if required. We are to prepare the conformity report for our non-payment and maintenance areas. I've already mentioned what those are. We are to manage public review and comment period. That's important with our engaged Northwest Indiana Public Participation Plan. The policy committee makes the conformity determination and adopts the long-range plan and TIP. We ask the Federal Highway Administration to initiate the formal consultation. That's after we get the policy board approval. We maintain and manage the conformity process schedule throughout all of this. And this doesn't apply to us necessarily, but conformity areas with multiple metropolitan planning areas, the applicable MPOs coordinate conformity emissions analysis is required and share the list of non-exempt projects in their long-range transportation plan and TIP with the other MPO. So, these are the two documents that Resolution 2304 asks us to approve, or actually in this case, recommend to the Executive Board on March 16th to approve. I'm happy to answer any questions, because it's a lot. But
I'd like to just let the record reflect that David Wright from PPC and Commissioner George Toole are here. And are there any questions for Scott? Chris, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve or to make recommendation to the full commission of Resolution 23.
second.
First by Dean, second by Mark. Dale. Do we have any other questions, comments, thoughts? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? So moved. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm going to return for a minute. We did have a couple of people here, Leslie Beck and Jane. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. You wanted to comment about train safety. You each have 2 to 3 minutes.
Well, we just have a question whether or not this group can address to us in reflection of what happened in Ohio, how we would still be safe here, that it's not going to be done here.
I think I just direct you to staff from that standpoint. It's very difficult, of course, to deal with the railroad industry. It's somewhat separate from what we do, but it's very interesting as well. I would suggest that you have a conversation with Kathy Luther, who's up in the front row. Pick on her. She's our staff person who deals with the environmental.
Yeah, we're not okay, thank you.
no other question, comment? We'll just move on then. Next, we have Metropolitan Planning Agreement with NDOT. Kevin Follett, lead.
Thank you. I'm Kevin Polite. I'm here. I'm going to talk about the Metropolitan Planning Agreement here. So the action item for today, the action that we're talking about is on pages 4 to 15 on your packets today. Looking for a vote to recommend to the executive board on March 16th. This is a little background on the Metropolitan Planning Agreement. This is the federally required document that we have to do with GPTC and NICD. So, like I said, it's an NDOT agreement with NERC, GPTC, and NICD. One correction, if on your original agenda that was sent out last week, it was said that it was an FHWA document. That was a typo, miscommunication on our part. It is an NDOT document that we are working on here. So through NDOT, all of the MPOs, the Indiana, all of the similar document that is being signed that by their transit agencies that meet the needs of their particular area. For us, it's with NICD and GPTC. This document was written by NDOT in January, and it was reviewed by us in January, and then it was sent out to GPTC and NICD in early February for review. During that review here in February, we did have a comment from GPTC, and it reads from the original language. It's on page 5 of your agenda, the last bullet point, if you want to read along with it, but it says that GPTC plans, operates, and maintains a municipal bus transit service in the city of Gary and has contracts with several adjacent communities to extend bus transit services into their cities and towns. The comment/change that GPTC wanted to make is that the document would be changed to GPTC plans, operates, and maintains local and regional transit service in the city of Gary and several adjacent communities. So comments from NICD, we did not receive any, so we're going to proceed as with the changes from GPTC as of now. The next step is like I said, we're looking to recommend this to the executive board, and then for this committee to make the changes that GPTC wants to make, or to go back to the original language. That's it.
So, do we have any comments, questions? Mr. Wright, I do, and I appreciate the fact you're working with us on this.
No. First of all, I do want to laud Mercy and staff for making sure that we got our comments in. Just wanted to clarify, I thought that the change we suggested more accurately reflects how we do the service, because not all of the non-Gary service that we provide is contractual. Some of it predates some of the contracts, for instance, with the Hammond or in Miracle. It also includes paratransit and other modes of transit. I wanted to make sure that we were a bit more succinct and a bit more inclusive of all of the service that we provide.
So, does this document satisfy your?
With the changes that we recommended, this is perfect.
Outstanding. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion to recommend this to the commission?
I shall move.
A favorable recommendation? Okay, the change. So who was the second? Mr. Copel. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? So we'll forward this on to the executive board.
Thank you, everyone.
Now we'll do program. Fiscal year 2024-2028 Transportation Improvement Program RAP project selection. Mr. Press?
It's the Excel file on the bottom.
What's that?
Excel file on the bottom should be yours.
It's changed, but it hasn't changed that much.
Okay,
So I'll go with it.
It's still plugged in, so you can go to your original one too if you want.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. That's why we're here, right? Oh, let the games begin. Most of this, as you see up on the screen, is what was discussed in all of the topical committees. So at the top, we have EMPC, land use, 3PC, and then STC. There are a couple changes in land use, and there were two changes actually to land use. One, Iman, the land use committee, topical committee, did not realize that they needed to review transit expansion, which we had one project for transit expansion, requesting CMAQ funds. In accordance I shouldn't say in accordance, but in our regular procedures, they asked for, I'll just give you a brief overview of what GPTC is requesting. They're requesting to start microtransit in two different areas, Westlake and in the Hobart area. Westlake being Hammond all the way down to Munster and Dyer maybe, kind of along the Westlake corridor for NICTE. In accordance with my normal procedures, if there is a way of breaking a project into phases, I do that. So they had asked for funds in both areas, so I broke that into half, and half of it would be in Westlake, and the other half would be in Hobart area. My apologies, David, for not reviewing this project. So if there's any questions, we can discuss those questions now. But basically what I did was I took the 1.7 that you requested, divided in half annual. And then GPTC is already doing an expansion project in Hobart. If you want to do, so I broke that into, you already have an expansion project going on. And that would carry over into 27 and 28. These funds, by the way, wouldn't be eligible till 27 or 28 probably, depending on what we got. Now, is there any questions on David?
Not right now.
Okay, anybody have any questions on, yes?
I'm just curious, how is microtransit different from demand response?
It's similar, but it's a bit more dynamic. We do demand response, but it's paratransit. This would open it up to the entire population as opposed to the non-ambulatory population. We haven't determined if we're going to do it in-house or contract out. But it's something that it's currently, and it would also be a bit more responsive in terms of a quicker response time for someone requesting a ride, as opposed to having sometimes 2 weeks for a demand response ride from some of the current grantees or sub-grantees. But we think it's the best way of serving some of the suburban, and exurban populations as opposed to a fixed route serving serving Dyer.
What type of vehicle are you
We would probably be using either one of our VOCs or several of our VOCs, the smaller van. Those are our paratransit vehicles. We already have a scheduling software that's actually greatly improved our efficiency in paratransit, and it could create the capacity to allow us to do this in-house. If we can't, then we'll probably contract it out. And it's possible that one of the existing demand response service providers could end up doing that service, particularly since Gulf Township already operates where they've got that capacity. It's being done right now, contracted out in areas of the West Lafayette service area, areas of the Michiana Maycop service area. And I want to say the southeast quadrant Indigo service area, where it feeds their traditional fixed route. Basically, it expands the first mile, last mile reach of some of those peripheral routes to get people to areas that we don't currently express as community hospitals. We don't go to regular community hospitals. This will allow us to provide that, which is important considering what's going on in the healthcare field in North Township. We actually proposed a project before some of those things took place, so that could actually help, positively impact on access to medical facilities.
Any other questions? Okay. Like I said, all these projects, with the exception of the one that GPTC has presented, was reviewed at the applicable topical committees. Looking at our annual budget, we do not have any funds. We have some funds. It looks like we don't have any funds in 24. That might, I think, that will probably change because of the dynamic situation we have. You can see where in the funds we have available in 24, or actually any one of these years. STPG funds, we don't have any funds available. HSIP funds, we do. But then STPG funds and CMAC funds take away from that. TA funds, we are over budgeted also. CRP and Protect funds, we didn't use any of those funds. And CRP and Protect are new products of the IIJA and BILL grants. Those acts, I should say, they're not grants, they're acts. So we did not we received only 2 projects under the Protect, and we did receive several projects under the CRP. CRP is much like is carbon reduction program, really. So those projects are mainly looking at reducing our carbon footprint. The easiest and largest way of doing that would be to purchase electric vehicles, or I should say, to purchase emission reduction vehicles. There's other things that are qualified for that, but most of those qualify for something else. For instance, street lighting, or going your signals going to LED, street lighting going to LED, anything that would reduce our carbon footprint. Still rather new, so the only projects that we received under the CRP was for our member communities that are members part of Drive Clean Indiana. In 2025, we have balanced it out. 2026, we're balancing out to, some of these numbers are not what I was I've got these numbers are, you can see how we're sitting. In 2027, we have only 2.8 million available. That's what we're looking at funding today. The big surprise, and I think you're all going to like this, is let's look at these numbers here. 2028, we have 35 million. So, or 31 million available. That includes our 4.5 million that we're getting from back from Evansville MPO. If you remember, at the last T-Rock meeting, we had a large surplus this past year. Evansville MPO had a large project that they were waiting to award. We loaned them $5 million. they cannot pay us back until 2028. So it's either that or basically losing. So in 2028, we're going to have a very robust program. And then there's a slight, they could give us all the money back in 28. I think another 500,000 will come to us in 29 or 30. They have said that they will pay us back sooner if they can. So we'll see how that goes. But if we're programming projects, then we may just go ahead and say we'll stick with the 2028, 2030. So. So going with these numbers that I have up here, and granted this is all very fluid, as we know. I got word this morning that there are some projects in 23 that it might be pushed to 24, or some phases of projects in 23. And there's some stuff going on in 24. It's a very fluid situation. And we are going to roll with the flow. That's how we can do it. I do want to say that in the past, I know in the NOFA, we did look at allocating certain funds for certain projects. And quite honestly, how many people here understood that? Okay. Yeah, me too. I'll admit it. My previous boss came up with that, and I tried working it twice. And after 2 times of working it, I don't understand it. It's hard to make the math work, especially when we put the NOFA out in September and October. And in January or late December, we got our new updated numbers for 24. So already those numbers that I had put in there are up in there. Now, normally they don't change, but this year they did. CRP and Protect, those are both new programs. We did not get any extra money for those programs. They took money away from our other funding sources to fund those programs, those 2 funding sources. So we lost money. What's that?
For all years or just?
All years. So originally we had like $3 million of CMAQ funds. Now we have 1.8 million roughly, just to give you an idea. They pulled money away from CMAQ and HSIP largely to fund CMAQ, or to fund CRP and Protect. In LaPorte County, they took money away from STBG to fund those 2. So it's not like we had new funding sources, we get more money. No, we didn't. We did get more money with the Bill Act, and then we had to allocate it to new funding sources. So, I am going to try to fund projects according to their category, if that is okay with everybody. We can look at what our intent was, and if anybody has any problems with that, please let me know. I tried to explain it, I tried to be transparent about it, but if I didn't talk to you, my apologies. It's been a very long 2 weeks. So I finished this late last weekend. Trying to get an overall picture, I do have in here. I also want to point out that when going through this, I did notice that pretty much everything is a tier 1. So we had originally set up tier 1 as the most important, tier 2 as secondary and tier 3 is something we're not going to fund, but you're still eligible. So that's kind of the bottom of the barrel. But I did notice going through and compiling all this, pretty much every project is a tier 1 project. So people either know how to work within the system, or we've allowed the system to work itself so that every project is an important project. And we know it is. Trust me, I'm not taking any funds, I'm not taking any importance away from any project in Cedar Lake or any other, or Hammond or GPTC or LaPorte, Michigan City, anybody else's. I'm not taking any importance away. The Protect funds, we had two projects, and they were actually both minor. They were looking for a total of one. It was the Kennedy Avenue Bridge project, and they're looking for $310,000. And the other project was Cedar Lakes 133rd Avenue culvert replacement, and they were looking for about $400,000 in construction, depending on the year. We could try to squeeze those in. Shrunk it down, and now I don't get numbers. We can fit those somewhere in 25 or 26. Or at least start those projects in 25 or 26. And then as far as Cedar Lake, we can fund that later on. Looking at that. Actually, I'm not going to, the air quality, the ones with CRP, I'm not going to discuss those this morning. I think.
What happened to the scores though?
What's that?
I just wonder what happened to the scores. What I say?
The scores are there.
Okay.
I didn't, there was a lot of rework on the CRP projects.
Yeah.
And I think the scores were pretty much all the same. So we did work out with Dry Clean Indiana, with Ryan on funding those projects throughout all the 4 years, if we have funds available. I'm pretty sure we do have funds available for CRP in those 4 years. As you can see, we don't have any projects for CRP in any years. I did look at what we do have in our tip right now to see if any of those projects would be eligible, and we don't have any. Real honestly, we don't have any projects for CRP or Protect that could be used for those in our tip. I did tell people that at our transportation resources, our T-Rock meeting, that we will probably have a NOFA later on this summer when I get free time for Protect funds only. And that is for resilience. So if you have a road that floods repeatedly, if we have a bridge that needs to be raised, if there's a culvert that's undersized, something like that, those are what we're looking for. It's climate action resiliency is what it is what Protect is for. And I know some of the municipalities along the lakefront do have issues with their shoreline, and so those would also be eligible. We did talk about several projects that would be eligible, so keep that in mind. There'll be more at the April T-Rock meeting on that. But right now I don't have the time or the bandwidth to even think about what that would look like. Again, later on in the summer, pay attention, we'll have something only for Protect funds. So that being said, we are not going to be fully funding all of the funds we have in the projects. If we have funds available, funds are just going to remain open. But to show that, the classic example that I've been showing everybody is in 2024. This number right here, 75,000. That's our HSIP funds. That's our HSIP projects. We get $2 million a year. We're getting $2.8 million a year for HSIP funds, and in 2024 we only have one project for 75,000. That is NERC doing road safety audits for everybody. We're going to start doing that this year. You can see overall we do have a nice, healthy HSIP program, but we do need to have, it is important, especially with Vision Zero and Safe Streets for All, we do need to show that we do prioritize highway safety. Federal Highway did point that out to me in our last review. So I'm just sharing that we do need to look at highway safety, or I should say safety programs that do emphasize safety. Land use, to kind of go through these, we have Hammond. Again, these are looking for HSIP or STBG projects, all of them. There is NERC in here for HSIP. I put that in there, and these road safety audits, 75,000, we did not, NERC did not put a project in. So that is on my part. We can talk about that later. It is only $75,000 a year. Transit planning, those are 5307 funds. Portage has, again, we have STPG funds for a lot of different projects. Munster does have a project that would be eligible for HSIP funds. Cherville Kennedy Avenue, which is one of our transformative projects. These are new roadways. St. John has been awarded for their new roadway, Klein Avenue. They've been awarded DE, so they would like to continue on with that. Colorado Street in Hobart, and then in LaPorte, they do have two projects that they would like to extend their roads. So. Isn't there a new bridge in there for Porter County?
Can you make it a little bigger?
Yeah, sure. We run it's one of those things I'm weighing it, but then I gotta really.
Then you gotta move around.
I gotta, yeah. Looking at our active transportation, we have different trails. As you can see in here, they're eligible for STBG or transportation alternative funds. All of these. If we can look at green is LaPorte, and I think there's only one person here from LaPorte, Michigan City. That should say the Group 2 funds here, right, Beth? So I guess there's only one person to ask for those funds. Anyway, Munster Munster et al. Has a EVP project for 7 different communities, I believe. That does need to be pared down, but the nice thing about the EVP projects is that can be molded to fit whatever we can. Well, as you can see, most of these other projects are SDBG funds. We do have HSIP in Maryville, or CMAC, one of the two. These are 2 roundabouts. We can look at putting those in. I do not know what the road safety audits would say about those, if there is a safety issue there for either one of these, roundabouts at 61st and 55, or Delaware Parkway and US 231. I do want to point out that both these projects are on state roads, so that accordance with NERC's policy, NERC will only pay for 40% of those projects, not the 80%. We pay for 80% of 50% of the project. If it's HSIP, then we pay for 45% of it, or 90% of 50. NDOT is required, or the municipality is required to come up with the remaining balance. NDOT is fully on board with both of these projects. And if we program these projects, they will program the funds for these projects. Cherryville has a project in here for some CMAQ funds. St. John has a project in here for some CMAQ funds. Again, the green I'm not going to discuss because these are Group 2 projects. We do have a bridge replacement. Oh, this is the Kennedy Avenue Bridge. We do have bridge replacements for right here in Lake County and LaPorte County, Lake County and Porter County. We did set aside, we do kind of have an informal agreement that we will fund bridges because bridges are important. They tend to score a little bit lower than our normal roadway projects. So we do make concessions for bridges in there. And then again, new roadways are all category or tier 3 projects. We do make exceptions for larger projects that are transformative. Right now we have 2 transformative projects. And to be a transformative project, you must be in our long range plan. And we do have 2 of those again, like I said. One is Cherryville, Kennedy Avenue, and the other one is Porter County, Willow Creek Road. So, in 2025, we really don't have any money except in CRP. We do have some TA funds in 2025. But we are over on STBG funds and HSIP funds. We do have other, so that kind of cancels out the TA funds. We cancel out the TA funds and some of the CMAQ funds. So, can start out and going with land use. Any comments?
Some of this is a lot of money, I appreciate it. And Jake and Charles were wrestling with this piece. And I kind of urge them to make as many equitable decisions as we can, and I think this is the best we're gonna do.
I do see some lower cost projects in here. Gary is asking for $600,000 for just design, for PE, $400,000 federal funds. Hammond is asking the same, or $480,000 for, do a planning study on Columbia Avenue. Again, these are all planning projects. You can see 200,000, all of these, Trent, I'm not gonna, that's a total of 1.5 million right here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects. I'll pull out the HSIP, the NERC, because that was not reviewed. So, that's 1.4 million. Does anybody have any qualms about those?
Does this trigger a legacy condition for points in the future, I ask? Because my project doesn't, right? The purpose of my project is to fund a study that could capture money in other avenues rather than coming to NERC for funding on that project, because there's so much federal money available or has been made available through different programs. I wasn't attempting on this project, this Pell study, to trigger it to become a legacy project for which NERC would be then on the hook for future funding.
Well, I can tell you first off, as far as legacy projects, you've got 20 years to do that project. So, yes, it may be a legacy project, but it doesn't, we do not give any extra points for being a legacy project.
But it triggers that it would become a legacy
Right.
project.
I know what you're saying.
And
Yes, it could.
my fear is that we're going to commit to projects here that will then commit NERC to future funding because we now make them a legacy project. And I'm here to tell you that that project of mine listed is not intended to do that. Now, 10 years from now, a representative from Hammond could come in and say something different, but the fact is, I'm trying to do this project to leverage other sources of funds, but I need something to get me to the point where I can get those federal funds through MEGA or infra or certainly not rural, but those other pots of money that have been made available in recent past.
So then I guess the only other, we have Maryville. Maryville has 2 projects in there. 93rd Avenue corridor planning as well as the town center, new town center planning. Are both of those, Jake, can you?
Yeah, Steve's out sick today, so I can answer on his behalf if I know the answer. Go ahead.
Would this create a legacy project?
The result of the study itself, you mean?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Actually, as I'm thinking through this, I don't think these would, by definition.
I agree, I think this is a study.
Yeah, these are studies.
Right.
It's not
Yeah,
PE.
I don't
It's
think
not
that's
PE.
creating a situation where the projects that are identified then fall under the legacy.
You'll give them justification to have the project.
Yeah.
It's an additional study for points, if there's, 3 to 5 studies, et cetera, for additional points, that's all I would see coming out of that.
Denny?
Yeah, as long as it's planning, it doesn't create a legacy. It's only when you go into the aspects of PE that will then create legacy issues.
So, right.
So as long as these are all pure planning, that's not a problem. Secondly, I take a little issue with you in that in the scoring criteria or the application said we would not select projects based on preliminary costs, that we would only select projects based on construction, so that we don't get into the same trap that we fell into the last time, where we were putting money into pockets because it fit and didn't pick the highest scored projects.
Right.
Lastly, the number that you got here is that traditionally the amount in the tip that we have spent for this category. So if we've got 30, I think you said 37 million. So, you know, is this 1.4 million typical of what we have funded in the past in this area?
We haven't done a whole lot of studies in the past, since I've been here. In the past, this is the third NOFA that I've gone through. We have not done a whole lot of studies. So, but it is a good point of clarification so that these communities going forward do need to understand that this is not a legacy, this does not create a legacy for you. So.
I guess my only other comment then would be related to, we had the top scoring project, and we're overlooking the highest scoring project on a TOD planning implementation project, that this project type was created since the last NOFA, because NERC recognized that this was an important part of our mindset moving forward. And so looking past the top scoring project, sort of, I guess it goes to equity, right? From what you said earlier, Mr. Chairman, just why submit projects if you're not going to select the top scoring project?
Yeah, so I mean, we could look at, and thank you for bringing that up. I missed talking about the scores. What the scoring, we need to look at the scoring, because it's one of our main reasons. So we can look at the scoring, and we can look at funding these top three scores, and then continuing on looking for projects that have better scores or that have higher scores. So yes.
When you say look at other scores, within the same category or across categories?
Across different categories. I know, we're comparing things, I know. But, I mean, we could, I don't want to look at, we need to look at scores across other categories, but we also need to look at scores as a whole. So we can look at planning and studying and pick the top, these top three, and fund, say, one a year, 26, 27, 28.
So this is going to sound critical. Why would we start with land use first, right? That's sort of that's
great. I mean, and that's why, okay.
Anywhere. I think the last NOFAs we started with multi-use trails first.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that we should, but how do we, as a group here, decide which category goes first?
And that's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm asking for.
I think they're just trying to stay current with what our trends are, transitory.
You're right. I mean, I
think we've grown more considerate of. In the past, it was trails. They're all important, but we reprioritize. Yes.
So are we saying land use is the number one priority? of NERC, this
Well,
one project.
that's the input we were kind of getting back when we were talking to Tim. So it's up to you guys, whatever you want to prioritize.
But, I mean, what my recollection, right or wrong, in previous NOFAs were, we had buckets of money set aside for each of the project categories. We sort of said, you know, we want so much money set aside for multi-use trails, so much money set aside for complete streets. And that's how it was sort of divvied up. And I heard what you said earlier, that didn't really make a lot of sense, right? I mean, it was sort of difficult to decide that, but I think ultimately it was a way at least to sort of define where our priorities were going to be spent in terms of dollar amounts per project type and category. And
I'd agree with that, and the scores really aren't comparable across
Yeah.
the board. Some categories, just everybody scores higher, some categories, everyone scores lower.
Let's see if there's a. Yeah, I am.
Charles, I just know they don't work, like, we have ran projects across the one.
Yeah, I know they don't. I was hoping that I had a more recent NOFA application that I could open up. But I didn't change too much on this NOFA. So,
Why don't you open up the notes just to show, you want to show that page, right, with the programs targets?
yes,
Well, let me put the NERC app that way.
Yeah, it's on each application.
It's on all of them.
Yeah, it's one of the first
NERC one
tabs.
is fair, because we're not scoring that today, so if you put the NERC one, you can get to that page without,
there's a NERC.
yeah, that's why I saw that, made me think of that, just to get the application. Assume you fill out an application. What? I have a road safety office. Or it's broken, so never mind.
actually I could probably open up any one of the projects.
Yeah.
Tab on every one of them.
Who's not here?
So multi-use trails, we had 2.7 million. So if we had 30, well, let's just go with that 2.7. I'm not gonna, this is from 2020, so the only thing that would change would be updated numbers. So we can look at that, we'll just use these numbers and then we can adjust them in 2028, I guess, because we do have such a large program in 2028. Now, 2027, we don't, so, but we can, let's just see how this works, okay? If everybody wants to humor me on this. So 2.7, 2.75,
per year, right?
Yes, 2.7, well,
That's Lake Porter.
yes, 2.75 per year, but
When we have money.
we don't have any money in 27, but we do have money in 28. Jeff?
Charles, just to point out, Next Level Trails funding from the state took a lot of the burden off of us here at NERC to get the trail projects done. A lot of money paid to our area for that.
And more to come.
More to come.
Yeah.
So, the score, I don't think my scores are right.
No, exactly, Dean,
But,
exactly. Something's wrong, because that Kennedy project was not 92. I think the
my Market Greenway
150th
Trail
in
project,
Chicago was.
1, 2, 3, the fourth one down was the highest scoring project. It wasn't the Kennedy Trail. And that was my recollection. And I don't mean to, like, come against the meeting here, but.
And Mitch just walked out the door. So, okay, well, let's just bypass 3PC. Because I don't have, I did have all the staff members to give me the committee scores. And this is what Mitch gave me, so.
I wonder if it got sorted, but not the whole rows.
Yeah.
The scores got sorted without the rest of the row, that was.
Perhaps.
Mitch gave me a PDF.
Oh.
He didn't give me a spreadsheet. So I think he might be going to get
Get
that.
the right one.
Yeah.
I think two just got transposed, I think.
So that would make sense to you.
If it's painful for you, just think how it is for me, right?
I know, right?
Stand it up here.
I appreciate you doing this.
Air quality, we have, alternative fuels infrastructure. That is CMAC, transit vehicle emission reduction, CMAC, air quality education, it's also CMAC.
But you got transit in there, you got
Yeah, I know.
53,
You have to
10,
separate it out.
53, 7.
Where's the, are the planning was all scattered, right?
Transit only did
Yeah, how much did we put in planning? 1.2.
Yeah, 1.25.
So we could do the planning ones against the 1.25. No, it's really not. No, no. That's what these are. Too much. It's blurry that way. It's just time.
Second up at 20 million.
You got room for 35 million.
In the out year,
In the first year, we don't.
but
No, I'm talking the 1 year, that's really.
But actually, it kind of evens out to about the same, I think. So it would, we could use these numbers and look at that, because I think Danny and I have looked at it, and it comes out about the same, comes out to an average about 20 million a year as it is. And what we discussed earlier, Denny. So,
So we could use these category amounts, would it be by year or total,
it'd be total,
for the 2-year program?
right, so we could,
And we'd be close to
right,
the thing. The reason that these were picked out, these dollar values were assigned according to staff's understanding of the 2040 long-range plan priorities. That's where these numbers came from.
2050,
No, it was prior to the
oh, 2040, that's right, because this is done prior to, the NOFA was, the 2020 NOFA was put out prior to the 2050 plan. So,
I think we could, if there's a really high scoring project that doesn't fit, then we talk about that one, and otherwise just try to.
yes,
Just an observation. So we have two transformative projects. The big price tag.
okay, actually, I'm sorry, what was that?
You got two transformative projects and that's for a lot of money.
Right. Now, those transform, I do want to note that Kennedy Avenue is asking for Porter County, Willow Creek Road Extension is asking for $15 million in construction loans. However, we do cap transformative projects, or any project, transformative projects to 10 million federal funds, and regular projects to 6 million. So one of the things I did go through here and look at, if you ask for, here's one, they asked for 9 million, well, 80% of 9 million is a lot more than 6 million. So we do have a cap at 6 million, and then therefore they are not, that's all they're eligible for CN and CE. Again,
I thought of bringing that up, that's really glaring.
Yeah.
At our winter meetings, we want to make sure that we're advancing these transformative projects.
right,
Yet on the other hand, my observation, looking at these categories, you've got costs in there that far exceed, they're scoring number one. Some of these other categories, they exceed the table. How do we balance that?
so then, right, that's, so how we would only give them the amount of funds that are available in that, for that category, I guess, is what we, if that's what we said.
That's at least a starting point.
Right,
How we done it in the past is we take these funding targets and we go through each category, highest scoring project, next down, and then we get down toward the last bit of money. We kind of keep that open a little bit, and then if, for instance, there's another category project that you could take a little here, and make it whole, we have done that. But typically, we use these targets, and that's what you start with.
right.
But it's a target, and then you work down through the list. So are you proposing that changes this time, or what are you doing?
Actually, we really, that's what I'd like to do, but that's not what I said in the NOFA. So, I mean, I can't change the rules midstream.
What did you say in the NOVA that conflicts with this?
Well, no, we would use those funding targets.
Going to review the funding categories?
Is this,
It should be in there, yeah.
this is the new one?
Yeah, well, that's one dated from November 2022.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott, for giving me this. So we do have updates. Yeah, we had the same amount for transit, 2.75, or not transit, but multi-use trails, 2.75. Alternative fuel infrastructure is CMAC or CRP. We didn't have any projects available until 27. Transit vehicle emission reduction, again, we didn't have any money available until 27. Air quality education, or air quality education, yeah, 27. So, complete streets and multi-use trails are at the top of the list. And next would be transit expansion. So we would take and microtransit in either Westlake or Hobart area and fund those for starting in they're asking for 61,000 in year 0, and in year 1, 800 or $680,000 annually to run microtransit in either Westlake or the Hobart area.
Year 1 is 2027.
Yes, I would say year 1 would be 2027. They're asking for 61,000 to purchase capital, whether that's to get up and started, whether that's a bus. It's usually a bus, but that's not enough for a bus. Van. So that's what they're asking for, is for a van.
I got a van now that can't be used until 2027.
Well, we wouldn't give it to them. We wouldn't buy them. Well, first off, it would be no, it would be, we would give it to them in 2026. We wouldn't be buying a van now that.
We don't buy them off the lot. They have to be ordered, we exercise options very limited time in order to have it ready for the launch service.
And I don't know about vans, but the small buses take about a year, right?
Yeah.
No.
Basically, the same.
Well,
If
normally.
they're making them this
If
year.
they're making them.
Normally.
Yeah,
Don't get us started.
yeah. Could be 3 years.
We'll call.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
show us, Charles?
What's that?
Do you have more to show us?
I'm programming these funds in 27, 28. So. Mitch said he's ready to talk about trails.
You are.
Okay. The scores now?
You never gave me. But you never gave me.
All right, so Kennedy Trail. Is that the NIPSCO Trail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
65. Yeah. Dyer Pensy Trail is at 76. Kristen Road Bridge is 74.
So it's just my two projects, so it's.
In Market Greenway, 150 in Hammond,
92.
Founders Creek,
Gideon.
Cedar Lake, Founders Creek Trail.
Yep. 52.
And then Valparaiso Creative Trail,
Valparaiso is at 76.
East Chicago,
Founders Creek.
Bridge mine,
75.
Main Street, Munster, and then
Michigan City is at 58.
52 for Westwood,
52.
133rd,
46.
and North Street, Phase 1,
38.
I got Mitch, it was only my two projects that were different. That was it. Everything else you had right. I don't know.
As long as we got bigger. No, you were good.
Good that you were
Really? So you're the only ones that were, okay.
So if we use 2.7 a year, and if everybody is agreeable, we'll program those, and it may be in 27, or maybe, I'll try to get in 27. I'll program it for 27 and 28. And if we have to, I'll adjust it from 27 and 28.
Between which years get funded?
Yes.
So you're gonna define the top scoring projects that amount to approximately
2.75
per year, right?
Right.
And divide that under the top scoring project for multi-use trails.
Yes. So the 92 is,
If I'm not sure, I would have got on here for cost of the project. No.
so then the next project is, next highest scoring project is the Tennessee Dyer Trail.
There's a tie, right?
76 and 74.
There's another 76 down there, isn't there?
That's under complete streets.
But it's listed under
Oh, okay.
this application submitted as multi-use trail. We changed that.
Yeah.
Is that a complete street?
That's a complete street, sorry,
Okay.
No, they get funded under different categories.
Right, so the Tennessee Dyer Trail. So we could fund that in 27. I'll put that in 27, but keeping in mind that that may move to 28.
The Dyer fencing trail.
Yes.
So you're 2 million now, you still got 2
Okay. 7.5 million. Well,
per year.
right.
So you got another, that was 2 million, 601.4 is 2 million, so you still have another 3.4 million left to fund.
Yes.
Charles, can I ask a question? I'm having a hard time tracking in from these distances and such, but.
Are you getting
Yeah,
busy?
my eyes are getting old, I guess. But when you're programming that money, are these projects not requesting PD or right of way? I mean, we always try to keep that in mind when we're programming construction funds in 27. Things have to happen before that, and they were requesting those funds. Are we looking at that right now?
We should, if they requested it, but in the case of Hammond, Dean, I think we're just construction money. So Pennsy Dyer Trail, I don't know. So what the application said.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was worried about on all of these. With only the 2 years and that amount of money, how do you do the work ahead of it to be able to get to a letting even at that point, right?
But they're selected for construction first. And then the PE, if they're selected, then gets put maybe in a year or two
prior.
before if there's
Correct.
money, or maybe not. Maybe that's the first year they get money.
Yeah.
If
but
the
I think-
project's selected based on its construction and based on its score.
Understood, just the
So-
timing and all of that.
They're asking for, Depency and Dyer's asking for just, and for 98,000 for right of way.
Okay. I couldn't tell if that was being considered in what we're talking about.
And then they're also asking for, CE funds too.
For both?
CE funds,
C,
construction engineering. I will have to work with Dyer on finding if they can, for their right of way. In 26, maybe 25, I don't know.
You got 3.2 left in the program.
Yes. Next one's Portage, yes. They're also asking for $200,000 in PE, so.
Did you add the CE?
Yes, it is true.
So there's about, so what we would do, the previous note was we just roll that surplus to the next category.
Right, which would be in complete streets.
If we wanted to. You gotta look at the next project, and compare the next project to the project in the next category.
Because we couldn't fund any other.
We got the Portage Chrisman Road at 74. The next project would have been
Down here at Founder's Creek.
No, Hammond at the top one.
Oh, and
3.5.
and that's not enough to, the 2.5 is not enough. That's total cost.
Okay,
So,
so what budget do we have for complete streets?
And some of it's like 3.3 million
what's that?
on the application form.
Some of it is 3.3.
Because it has, what, like 9 different categories, so everything's broken out in tiny little amounts for each type of project, but in some it's like 3.3 million.
3.3. So we'll put $1 million in TA and we'll put the rest in STPG.
So we're saying, take the $1 million that's left and move it to complete streets. Thanks to Beth, she says that we have 3.3
Yeah, that's
million.
just straight off the application form.
Right,
So
thank you she calculated out 3.3 million of funding to be set aside for complete streets, so we have 4.3 million to fund complete streets.
Right.
It's a year's.
That's,
Is that per year?
No, it'd be
So it'd be-
for the first year, and that'd be 3.3 for the next year. So it'd be 7.6.
7 for the 2 years, 7.6 for years. So the highest scoring one is Valparaiso. The top 3 are Valparaiso, East Chicago, and Munster.
But again, they're also requesting, it looks like PE and right-of-way in advanced years, unless they're not starting until 2027, or at least the PE.
Yeah. So East Chicago would only get 7 million, or 6 million, I should say, 6 million. They have a $10 million project. So with the complete streets, they would only, the max they could get would be, for any project would be 6 million. But being we only have $3 million available.
We have 7.6 over the 2-year period.
Right.
Right, you have the 1 million carried over, plus 3.3 for 2 years.
Right.
7.6, you can fund the top scoring project. And
In those 2 years.
in the 2 years, you just put it in the second year, right?
Yep.
And then you roll over.
Did East Chicago request some PE and right away, or were they
No,
funding all that on their own?
just construction. So is there 6 million that could go toward the East Chicago project? Is that what we're saying?
No, because they weren't the top scoring project.
So they would only be eligible for 6 million maximum if they were the highest scoring.
Oh, if they were the highest scoring, okay.
Right.
So
Because
how
they
many projects-
originally asked for 9 million
Yeah.
for construction funds. But the most we can give them, most we can give any project is 6 million.
Okay, so after, as you go down the ranking, is there anything left when you get to that project or no?
We could put that towards, I don't know what, after Valparaiso's project. Let me,
Yeah, but
yes. Is this what you want?
Yeah, which had,
The federal portion of that.
So total project cost is 6.3 million. So they want 1 million for PE. And then in 2027 or 2028, they are looking, in 2028, they're looking for 4.1, 4.6 actually, for construction.
Here's 5.5 total.
Right.
And that means there's 2.1 left to fund a project.
We have a different category. You were number 2 streets. So now it's a readvance.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That would mean, so we need to fund $1 million in 27, which we may not have. We can fund the construction in 28.
Take what we can get in PE if that's.
Because you have to be raised, and then funds become available. They seem to come available.
Yeah.
They just not.
That couch cushion, you know that couch cushion,
No,
guys.
$5 million becomes available in the current fiscal year, what do you do, right? And then-
Right.
But then now it's so late in the year, they're not ready to pull the trigger on whatever.
That's a
they're
big like
doing.
garbage trucks. That's a big like garbage trucks really fast.
And technically, to get PE in year before, doesn't make sense at all.
It does you no good.
But if there's some
You
distraction.
need at least, if there's right away, 5 years.
I think they can still.
Right.
Beautiful. So,
So we'll take whatever we get and right away or whatever. I'll let you know.
so there's 2.1 remaining. You're not gonna fund the East Chicago project. You're not gonna fund the Munster project. Do we move on to the next category, 2.1? Minimum jail.
So, yeah, in the past, we've rolled those down.
I mean, you could fund a lower scoring project, but.
I think you gotta roll it down.
I mean, or the other option is say you got 2.1 million, you're gonna only give them 2.1 million to fund the project.
And,
That's all we got.
and then honestly, this is, we're talking about 27, 28, we will have another NOFA before then.
But the money available will be 2 years out.
Right. So the next one will be in 24, so that could be.
So it's 2 years out.
Right.
With 28, 2 million and 28, you're not gonna be able to complete the project in 28. Your next amount of federal funding wouldn't come until 30.
Right.
So are we pushing the project to 30, even though I mean, I don't see that happening. Because you have the money available in 30 and it's now a project that's committed to, that it's not fully funded.
Right.
Or do they just, at one point, before I started working for the city, we got $2 million for a bridge project. And there was no more money available. And then NERC came back with, we can fund your CE. But 2 million, the bridge was 3.3 million. We only got 2 million to fund the construction. And that's all we had. And so there's that offer, right? You just, what's left, you want to do your project and all you get is 2 million. And I don't, if I were the LPA, I don't see anybody in that next two categories that would commit themselves to that. Right?
He raised a good point, Charlie. I remember passing over the road. Take what he said. no scraps on the table, you list the next person line, and you do
Julio? We got $2 million in 28. So that would mean that you would get 2 million for your Alder Street pedestrian bridge.
They weren't guaranteed the other eight.
Yeah.
Right.
If we don't have the full money, we can't start nothing. This is the problem.
Right.
Because that they're waiting to see.
That's your computer, right?
Just a lot of things are running through my head right now to kind of think about this program long-term. Should we go through and figure out, and we already know, which ones aren't going to be requesting PE and right-of-way and see what those are? Which community those are, because then you can program construction knowing they're going to advance all the things that have to happen ahead of that. They could take funds in 2027 more at lower risk, right?
And in the past, what we've done prior to me coming on, my understanding is they didn't fund PE or right-of-way. But that does leave some cities at a disadvantage, especially now with construction costs going skyrocketing.
They used to fund PE, they didn't fund right-of-way, and then they started funding right-of-way at the $200,000 cap. But PE was always, most, last 15 years was funded, actually at 80% in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases. And then now we've capped that to the 7.5% of construction. So to get more projects funded, it's stretching the dollar. But I'm just worried for everyone, and I'm not a municipality, so I'm not speaking on your behalf. But if we start programming construction for communities that don't have the funds to advance the work first, we're going to get to 27 and 28. And those projects are not going to have moved forward. And then we're going to be in a situation where we have more money than we can utilize for infrastructure type projects, these types of projects. We're going to either have to give it all away or, buy buses or what have you, which I don't know that that's the best use of those funds every year.
That's definitely not the intended use for this.
Right, and knowing that we are already overcommitted in some places, it's almost like you would want to try to create some funding availability and 25 or even 26 for some of those soft costs that have to happen up front, so that we're ready for construction in 27 and 28. I just see this, starting from the last NOFA before, Charles, you came here, we pushed things so far out. It feels like the further we're pushing these things out, the more
That's just the nature of it, because of how we're programming. Can I speak?
Yeah.
After the last one, what we decided to do was to pick the project by its score. And then, like in the case of Mike's project, he wants to have some PE. Okay, so you get your PE, and now because you don't have enough to fund both aspects in the 2 years we're looking at, his project becomes a legacy project. But you select the project based on its score, and then the first activity, whether it's PE or construction, is what's funded. So the fault of that is that you create legacy project, but those projects are at least in the system. They're working on their plans, and then they'll come up when their scores and such come up. But to pick projects only based on their construction first, and then fit the stuff in otherwise, no, you need to pick it by the score, and therefore, what's the first phase that they want to fund, whether that's PE or it's construction, that's what's considered.
I think we're saying the same thing. It's just, we have to figure out whether we're going to use 27 to fund these. We're going to fund a lot of PE in 27 if that's what's requested. And then it's going to create a lot a projects that are
Yes,
legacy.
it does. But I voiced that concern when we talked about funding PE, is that once you fund that first phase, you've committed to funding the project sometime in the future.
Right.
And so you better be selecting your top scoring project in order to be doing that.
So then we could fund, if we do that, the next scoring project would be, East Chicago, who's requesting no PE or right of way.
Yeah, but you funded Valparaiso, right?
Right.
And you're gonna fund $1 million for the PE, right?
But we asked for that.
Or do you want to fund the PE yourself and you'll just do construction?
If no PE is available, that's what we said.
So it's all construction?
Because we don't have any funds in 27 or earlier to give them.
Right.
So, and they've agreed to that, not take any PE.
Not taking PE, okay, so they have their project construction. What's left after that for the 2-year period?
Well, I think it was 2.1 based upon the number that you entered,
Right.
which included PE.
Correct.
Right. So it's 3.1 if you forego the PE.
Right.
It'd be 3.
Right. So if we started,
But if you can make PE available, he'll take it.
but I can't give him PE until probably the same year.
That's
So
a
that's where
problem.
the time-
Yeah, you can't do
The
that.
difference is, in our application, we asked for it.
Right.
Some people didn't ask for PE.
Right.
That's what I was wondering, can we go through the top scores and see who didn't request PE? We already know a couple of them, but what others are there?
But then in all fairness to the communities that have the highest scoring project, if they ask for PE, they should be
Correct.
asked whether or not if they're willing to fund it.
Correct.
Without.
Right, and we would only look at the top scores for each category, who didn't meet the request.
So then the remaining is we have this $2.1 million available. We just roll that down.
You could, if the project, next guy down doesn't want to take that amount,
Right.
call it good. That's why I'm trying to find out, what do you have for the 2 years left in this category after Valparaiso gets funded their construction money?
2.1 if they get the PE, 3.0 if they don't get the PE.
For the 2 years,
That's what's remaining.
okay.
So, I mean, we can keep going down the list. Munster moving down, they have a 5.6 million. So it's their second phase of their project, of their Main Street project. But again, they also know that the second phase is not, their first phase does not create a legacy project.
Right.
So they got 5.6, they're asking for 5.6 and $1 million or $760,000 for PE. That's what they've asked for. Be 28.
So what happened, I'm sorry, Mike and I were talking. We went to East Chicago and said, there's either 2.1 or $3 million left to do a $10 million project. If you want it, that's all you got. And we said, we're not taking it.
Correct.
And so I don't think that we should just keep working our way down the line.
No, I agree, because eventually we're gonna get down to scores that are in the 20s.
So we should just roll this $3 million over to the next category,
So we
right?
go to the next category with either 2.1 or 3.0, depending upon what Valparaiso does with the PE.
For some of these dates of money
I'm
remaining.
just gonna say 2.1 for now.
Yeah, let's just say
Just say
2.1.
2.1 for now, because we're talking in round numbers.
Let's just do
2.1 rolled into the next category, which is,
The category we're gonna try to eat up some dates of money that we don't have, that we do have in 25 or 26.
That's what we do.
Actually, I used up a lot of that money in programming some of the projects that I think will fit.
Message your team's message.
No.
We don't have the freight meeting today, right?
Yeah, that does. It does. I did.
Another note.
I did put Cedar Lakes in H. Yeah, I need to talk.
Do we know what the next category is?
It is TOD, planning and implementation. What's that? Yes, I do. I do. What's that? Any more sleep? Any more coffee?
We took the money and pulled it all into the next category. That's the way we did it. You would think.
So it sounds like we definitely need to have a workshop on fixing the no, or how to better implement it.
You guys had a whole committee to fix this after a lot of time.
And the time before.
Yeah.
Well, we did. But I think we just need to have a workshop, just have everybody come in and say, let's try, how do we fix this? Anyway, transit planning, transit planning and then TOD planning and TOD implementation. So TOD planning, we have $400,000 a year annually.
With the 2.1 carried over. Or not.
It does. If we carry it, it would filter on down what we've said, what we've done in the past. So.
Are those in priority? Like, are we filtering down in some priority, or is that just the next thing in line on the spreadsheet?
That's the next thing down on the
I mean,
spreadsheet.
is that really where the money needs
Yeah,
to
no, it's
go?
filtering priority.
That's not what we did.
Well, they're all tier 1 projects.
Sure.
Okay.
This is the next filter down. This is the next coming down the application. What we listed in an application as priorities.
Okay. And if they're all tier 1, then we didn't.
We've started, we've adjusted it, and now that pretty much every project's in tier 1. So we need to come up with a new tier 1A, tier 1B.
How much money is totally programmed in this category?
$400,000.
How much is requested?
For PE, Hammond has a big project, TOD planning and implementation for the east entry NICTE station. And everybody else is asking for just planning, not planning and implementation. So these are plans that would not lead to a legacy project.
So, my friend Mike Jago mentioned that at line 29, he has TOD implementation too. Where is that?
Planning and
where is that in the category? Because that's listed as TOD implementation.
This is what Iman gave me, so.
I believe that both the Surface Transportation Committee and the Land Use Committee agreed that with no notable objections, that project would be a TOD implementation.
So then the Hammond would also be TOD implementation?
Yes, I believe that was.
Both of them being discussed at land use.
What's that?
them being discussed, favorably amended.
Yeah,
They're both land use.
and they both scored the same.
And they both have planning and implementation. So the ones that are planning, strictly planning,
Have the board that does not want it.
are these right here. Maryville, Hammond, Gary, and Maryville. And that's going down in,
Okay, so we have 400K
Per year.
plus per year, thank you.
Right.
800K plus the carryover of the 2.1.
and 1.2 million requested. 220, 480, 400, 184.
I think you can fully fund those, right? With the money that's available. So what, the 800 plus the 2.1 carried over is 2.9, you're gonna deduct. How much federal money, I'm sorry?
1.2.
1.2. You're at 1.7 carry over to the next plan, so we're doing all the planning studies.
Okay, so if that's your recommendation.
It makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
We're moving the Hammond project into implementation.
Where the bubble projects go then? Where are they gonna go with the end of the bubble with the 1992?
So his, mine's moving into his area.
Oh.
So if we do that, can we just move on and move the 1.7 million to the next category?
Yeah.
Because planning, mining are cheap, they're reasonably inexpensive.
Well, sort of. Ready to look.
Is there an objection to the planning studies that don't score high enough?
Any other funding for them?
Yeah, there's enough funding, it was.
You know, why would we also cut off and carry over funding if there are projects that spend that money?
And also should be one of those projects you work with, I mean, we're just gonna roll, like a work, 2620 or whatever it was. We get on the funding where we can roll that to the next category, maybe roll a modification.
The budget was $400,000 for that category, and then $400,000 of project should be funded.
Per year.
What we added in the whole.
So we have to roll up. So we have 2.9 and once you funded 1.2, so we're funding 400K more than the category suggested because it was a surplus on the area.
Well, that's hard to answer. Somebody want to cut off the story or something?
We need to look at the whole area.
We didn't set a cutoff or anything, like a straight cutoff, we did it.
It's not the category, right?
No.
Categories of-
No, it's maybe just good, but. Oh, once you move it over the scoring.
So what does the group want to do?
Maybe look at the scoring, scoring, and
Charles, would it benefit to have a different, somebody doing the spreadsheet?
So these are the scores right here.
yeah. So how far down do we want to go in scores to be funded?
I mean, this would give Maryville 2 projects.
Isn't it 90 moving backwards?
So, I mean, I'm sure they have other projects that they would.
they
We do also look at geography and how many projects each one's getting, each municipality's getting.
You have a higher rank than the lowest one. They're
Let's see, Maryville does have 61st Street, so those are 72. And that one was a 65.
Yeah, we'll never get down to the value of those projects. Well, $20 million for
No, this, I mean, the roundabout maybe, I don't know, I'd say so.
but you got a project that's 12.8 million, we'll never get down that far.
Right, which, well, actually, they're only gonna get 6 million for construction.
But you see my point.
I know what I do see your point.
It's unlikely that they're gonna come up with
My point is, you know, if we roll this money over, we're going down, funding until you exhaust it. It's easy. But there are other projects and other categories to score. Yeah, I know they're apples and oranges, but really when you stand back and look at them, they're very impactful and very.
Right.
They're made short. They roll down.
I agree.
I think.
And I don't know that
Contrary,
solution.
I think you gotta draw the line, if it's a really high scoring project in that category, it's the need and the budget that was given. And sure, by all means, but if all of a sudden there's a big drop in points, I think that hurts something. Because you could lose all the roll down effect, and when you get to the projects that are more costly ones, such as the infrastructure and modifications, you know, and the roll down.
Yeah, I mean, you got
So you guys recommend not funding the Maryville 65 and fund the other ones? Is that kind of what it sounded like? Just listening.
I see Maryville at 90, and I see Hammond at 89 in that category. Those are very respectable scores. I would say the first one.
Does Maryville's LPA rank even govern their lower scored project? Is their higher ranked project of the two? Do they prefer one over the other? Probably doing one.
Yeah,
Maryville's not here today.
I know.
their lower scoring project was a higher
Ranked
priority.
higher.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, their 93rd corridor is more important than the Newtown Center to them, but the Newtown Center scored better. That's what you're asking.
Yeah, I don't, would they prefer one or the other if they're
They
only
would
doing one?
prefer the, yeah, my understanding, they would prefer the 93rd.
They did, and actually, their priority rank for the Newtown Center is 3.
Right.
And 93rd was 2.
It was their
So ask
three
them
of
which one
three.
they want, but one and not the other.
That's what that sounded like.
Okay. Well, that's what we did ask them what they wanted, and so they're saying their 93rd Avenue corridor is more important than the Newtown Center.
That's fair. It's cheaper. So they could elect to take their town center money and move it to their lower scoring project if that's what they want.
Within the same category.
But we're not going to fund both of them, I guess.
Right.
I was just asking. That's what it is.
I think that's where we're headed.
Why don't you just pick one and ask them later, this is so close to money.
Yeah, that's true. Just, we'll go, something.
So, yeah, therefore we funded. Hammond, Maryville, Hammond, and Gary.
Well, you didn't fund the first hand. You moved the first hand.
Oh, yeah, excuse me, Maryville, Hammond, and Gary. So those 3 projects.
And then Maryville will
Okay, so I
add
need
options.
those, total of those numbers was a 1.1.
Yeah, 1.1.
So we had 800 with a 2.1 carryover is 2.9, plus the 1.1, we're at 1.8 carryover. for the next category.
Yeah, Mr. which month are we funding out of, TOD plan?
Which ones? Well, we don't. Do you know what the next category is, Charles?
This was a lower priority. So we got the money for this.
The next category would be transit implementation.
Can I ask a question just for observation?
Yes.
Are we, we know we're following the same procedure we've done before. Could you hold these rollovers off to the side, and then you get done after you allocate everybody per the allocated categories, what's up, and see what's then come back, I'm just gonna say, rolling modification, needs the most money, you can apply that to that group, instead of just rolling and rolling. But
You have to go back to the start and do this all over again, because we've already been carrying money, rolling money over. We have to start over again.
I mean, we're 2 categories in, I'm not trying to delay the project, this process any more than it already is.
Yeah.
But I'm just, we go through it.
Or we could go from here on out, and it's hard to say.
So you could accumulate the carry.
Ultimately, what we want to do today is put together enough information for public notice.
Yeah, recommendations of the
We really
full
need to get
commission,
this on public notice.
We have to go to the recommendation of the full commission, right?
Not till after the public comment.
Until April.
Yeah, we still have public notice, so we have a little bit more time, not much. Because where we're at right now, we decided to hold off on full commission or the commission.
Is that a motion, Margaret?
We got 1.8.
Oh, 1.8.
Yeah. That's what we need.
1.6. Transit-oriented development.
Implementation.
Implementation is 1.6.
Well, wait a minute, let's back up. KOB planning, that's a subset of the safety group, right?
Yes.
Anybody missing? I thought we were going to move them all together.
Well, we did, and it comes up to.
We had 400K for TOD planning per year. So what's our TOD implementation, not transit implementation?
It's TOD implementation.
Line item of 4 in the planning / TOD development heading. It's 1.6.
And in that 1.6 was 400K that you pulled up as a previous category.
The planning was 400, so that's separate from 1.6. So that entire heading is 2.6.
So we have so the TOD implementation is 1.6 per year to 3.2. And we have 1.8 carried over from above, that gives you 5 million to play, unless we want to hold money back for other future projects.
So you make that a motion, or do you guys?
No, I mean, I think that we have to do this all together at
Yeah,
once.
right, I'm not-
So under TOD implementation, you have 3 projects and 3.2 as much as 5 million to fund those projects. 1.6 million times 2 years is 3.2 million, plus the 1.8 carryover. So it's either 3.2 or 5 to fund TOD implementation. So with 3.2, you could fund the Hammond project, which is the higher scoring project,
Oh, just above, we can break it down.
right?
There it is, yeah, that one right there.
So with the 3.2, you could fund the Hammond project for What was that federal amount?
1.7.
1.7.
Plus CE?
Well, for whatever reason, I did not give the inflated costs. So, for whatever reason, I did not give inflated costs for any of these TODs. That's total cost.
Total cost.
So it was 1.7 for construction, $2 million for construction and engineering.
2 million for federal.
Yes.
Right. So there's 1.2 remaining in the category. If you fund the Hammond project, and you have 1.8 left carried over from the previous project. So there's 3 million left to fund the project in the TOD implementation category. So the next scoring project would be the Valparaiso project.
Yes.
Would Valparaiso want the $3 million? The 1.2 or the 1.2 plus 1.8, $3 million to fund their.
And they're requesting 2.7-ish. Uninflated. 2.7 uninflated. Yes.
Let's go back to
The total amount is 7.
Was it 7 million?
Total cost is 4.5?
No,
7.
7.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
Sorry, looking at the wrong line.
Yeah. 4.3 federal?
So 4.8 for federal.
Yeah.
For construction engineering.
As much as 3. 1.2 in the category plus the 1.8 carryover. No, 1.3.
They did ask money for right away.
Yeah, it's money for right away, but not.
I'm not sure what line we're on. Is it 30?
29.
29, yeah.
So you could create a legacy?
Ask for right away, but right away.
Well, they didn't ask for PE, but, I mean, so you could ask for right away.
Yeah, but there's only, like we said,
3 million.
3 million, I need what? For construction.
4.8.
But this would create a legacy project.
Yeah.
And give you points for the next NOFA.
See how that goes. We got another project.
I just think that having another NOFA and making it a legacy project kicks the whole schedule out 2 more years, maybe less.
You gotta carry this money out, you gotta track it all.
Right.
It's a priority, we just apply for it again.
If you have to move the money, allocate in 28 to 29 or 30.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to move the money out. And that means another project has to come in to do it.
Or could we phase it in, making use of it?
Yeah, if you want to split phase it, right? That was always an option.
Yeah.
We will consider.
So do you want me to give you the $3 million?
We'll take whatever's there and we'll match the split. Phase it.
Okay, so what were they asking for federal money wise?
4.8.
4.8.
4.8. 300,000, 350,000.
We can open
We're
up
asking for 5.1, and there's 3 available.
So here's right away, 340,000, then 4.3 for construction and 500,000 for construction engineering. Now, those are uninflated costs, so
That's 8.2 million. That's more than the project. Something's not. No.
how do you get 8.1?
8.3 for.
340,000.
My math.
So 1.6, it's like 5.1, 5.2.
Yeah.
That's
So they're gonna take the 3 million on the 5-1 project, and there's no carryover for the next project.
So they're actually partially funding some construction. But they'll have to rephase.
It's sort of like my bridge project. It wouldn't be an 80/20 match, it would just be a flat 3 million. Because you took what was left. I thought it was 8. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know enough about the budget.
Balance of construction.
Yeah,
3 million.
that's what I was doing. I thought it was 3.1.
No, it was 5.1. The only thing that was left was 3 million.
Yeah, 1.2, 1.8.
1.2.
So that's what I got.
Yep. So do we know what the next category is?
So now we have no rollover, and we're starting over. Yes.
So the next category is the environment, stormwater management, flood resiliency.
Oh, those are the two protect projects.
Those are the two protect projects. We have $450,000 annually.
So the 2 protect projects that were submitted are gonna go in to the 27, 28, probably 28 fiscal year.
28 fiscal year, yeah.
And which were those?
This is Kennedy Avenue Road, Kennedy Avenue Bridge. Looking for additional PE funds. And then Cedar Lake culvert replacement on 133rd. What's that?
That category is that.
Protect.
Which was, that was only 75K a
Yeah, but there's enough money.
450,000 a year.
year. That was combined.
Yeah,
Is that combined CRP and?
that's,
Protect?
that's combined, that's for the entire
Protect and
category
TA.
per year.
Right, but we're using all protect funds so that not using any TA funds, and that should work. Should be able to afford both and still have some money.
For that,
What's that?
the PE for both of those that are requested go to earlier?
Well, Kennedy Avenue only wants PE. And then, yeah.
That was a little count? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We had a lot of support. What was that budget amount for, what was the budget amount for Protect? 2 point, no, it's not 50.
I thought it was 350. So, the two projects together, it's 7 point something, so. well,
So it's a break even then?
Yeah.
Use of all the money?
Yeah, basically, yeah. For the first 2 years, we didn't get any projects done, so then we then go to the next so far with the special note.
Yeah, anything that's in the tip can be moved up. If there's,
Two projects you moved up for earlier protection versus just the foundation.
correct.
Yeah,
Next project category?
yeah, that works out.
Yeah, any project that's in the tip, it can be accelerated if there's funds available.
What's our next category?
Quality of place. Portage.
950,000.
Per year.
Yes.
So 2 million?
And they have HSIP, however, it has to be HSIP eligible.
Quality of place has to be HSIP eligible.
Yes. If you want HSIP funds.
Do they want HSIP funds?
Well, everybody would take HSIP funds.
This is a project, because it's like Portage, I think I heard.
Is it line 29? Oh, it's line
28.
Central Ave.
Says
Quality of
STBG.
Place Doesn't say HSIP. So they're not eligible, they don't get funded.
No, well, we would pull it from STBG funds. There's two things, if you want HSIP funds, you've got to become eligible for it. The category is eligible for HSIP funds, but the project also has to prove it's a safety-related project, which means there has to be an issue there that you're fixing.
But it could be two ways. One, we got this approved list of measures, right?
Yes, there is an approved list,
Or you gotta do a benefit cost analysis.
and do a road safety audit and so on and so forth, which we are.
So they're not asking for HSIP money, so that's
Correct.
off the table.
Correct.
Okay. So on this category project, line 28, there's $2 million available, but that's HSIP money. So you could fund it, not using HSIP money, this project, but there's no source of funds for that project. This quality of place is an HSIP eligible
That's
funding.
where we put the money.
Right.
I don't know how you fund the project if there isn't money set aside in the category, it's only as HSIP money. Or am I missing something? We could fund it with SPBG money, of course, but we didn't have any SPBG money set aside under the quality of place category, correct?
Correct.
So you can't fund the project unless it was HSIP eligible. I would take that HSIP money and fund it for that Munster project. Right? Later.
Right. Hey, you mean the, this one?
$12
Yeah.
million Munster project, no, the HSIP, the one that benefits all the communities.
Oh, EVP?
Yeah. That's TOD implementation, we went past that.
Right.
So the $2 million of quality of place HSIP money goes to the next category, technically to an HSIP project.
Yeah.
And then now the next project would be intersection improvement HSIP.
Okay.
Is there a chance that they're HSIP and just didn't do the work?
Yeah.
Of course, it's
Approve of
possible.
that?
Are they here?
Do we have anybody from Portage here?
So next one's intersection improvement.
Safety.
Intersection improvements.
Intersection improvement, safety.
That's under the broader heading roadway modification?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. intersection safety modification to HSIP, only 1.825.
Per year, so that's. $365 plus the $2 million carryover is $565. So what on there is HSIP eligible?
So we have 3 projects.
So we can't afford the months for.
Start with the highest.
Well, I'll tell you, Munster, we can afford Munster only because it's EVP.
Yeah.
They did ask for $12 million, but it's EVP, so we would be pulling, we would make that project fit.
Signal preemption.
So we would make that fit.
Yeah, they could break that project up into smaller.
Right.
Just like your project.
Yeah.
So just give them that 565. It's all HSIP eligible.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the intersection improvements.
Yeah.
Which is greater for HSIPs or federal computer?
Yeah, look at 90. Yeah.
How much was available?
5.65. That includes the 1.825 times 2 and the 2 million carryover.
Yep.
565. Well. Next category, or, yeah, I guess.
Next is pavement rehab. Or there's intersection congestion modification or bridge replacements. Those are the next 3. They're all in with the roadway modifications.
How are you gonna handle bridges? Since they don't score
Yeah,
equally with the roadway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, it's maybe funding one bridge, right?
right. So there's 1 million available. We set aside 1 million available per year for bridges. Yeah, we did.
So bridge gets 4 million for each year.
Yeah.
Should we do bridges first?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's the other category?
Intersection congestion
And pavement rehab.
and pavement rehab. Intersection congestion is CMAC, and the pavement rehab is STPG or Protect.
Then you put it in perspective, all you have to table all those categories that all together.
Right.
We have safety.
Bless you.
We just find it creative.
So I'm at 738 minus 185.
Yeah.
738 is per year is what remains for intersection congestion. So you're at 48.
We're good with that. With that bridge.
Yeah, bridge you got, okay.
Yes, we can.
That's the agreement. Just a reminder to everybody that the county state purchase.
Both the Lake and Port County purchase.
So, how much is then left over after the bridges?
738.
Okay. Now, before we go there, we also have new roadways, two of which are on our long-range plan. Now, new roadways are tier 3, but we also have, again, two of them that are in long-range plan that we've said we will work with on funding to get them through. Those are those big transformative projects, Kennedy Avenue and Willow Creek. Yes.
For those projects, to keep them rolling, could they get PE right away, or are they at the point they need construction? I guess that's the question.
They are at the point where they need construction.
Construction 2027, Jeff? Construction 2027?
We're supposed to alternate years with Willow Creek, so that neither of them are both up in the same year.
Now, we don't have any funds in 27.
28 is, I mean, 15, that $15 million price tag includes right-of-way, PE, right-of-way, CN and CE.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
And I think the other thing we put on there, they could not take more than 50% of the bid.
10 million, 10 million. So those are capped at 10 million a year.
I know, Charles, that I've floated the idea past you that phase 4 might have to be divided into 2 phases.
Right.
Or A, or B.
I think we might be there with this.
So, for instance, we have Kennedy Avenue is 8.9 for construction, federal funds. And then keeping it at 10 million, they would only be eligible for a little more than $1 million per CE. So if we break that up to, say, 5 million, and then the balance would come at a later year. And then, of course, Willow Creek would be capped at $10 million for construction and nothing for CE. As I'm showing here. So this is for phase 2. That's Willow Creek so that's a big bridge over 130 and the railroad tracks. So,
It's all one phase.
So this 738 per year, that either goes to one of those projects or it goes intersection. That's what you're saying.
Right.
All the money that's left in the pot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we, how we funding both, how we funding both again.
Well, we actually can't fund both the projects because we knew that going into this NOFA, that our 2027 was gonna be small. Because we elected to fund projects, fully fund at 80% projects in 24, 25, 26. So we knew that going in, that 27 was gonna be small. So we did get a bonus. We did get a bonus with having, the $5 million from Evansville.
Yeah, that 2029.
That's in 2028.
28.
So I guess it's, what do we want to do?
What were the scores of those two projects? 91 and 93.
80 and 81, 91 and 93, correct.
As a line.
75 and 70 for those. 75 for Kennedy Avenue and 70 for Willow Creek. And then if we look at roadway modifications, the highest scoring one was 80.
So if we're scoring those in the same category, they don't score above the top, however many that is, 5 or 6 in the overall category. Starting with East Chicago at least. Well, we're gonna run out of money in a category just because roadway modification is the last one on the list.
Right.
And there's the most projects in it. We're not funding anything in that.
That's what.
That was my argument.
That's why he was saying we keep carrying the money over.
Yes.
Just for Brandon, everything you programmed overall is.
Because that would get all of the roads and nothing else would get done.
Oh, yeah.
So STBG funds, we have 800,000. HSIP funds, we have 2.1 and 27.
So it's 3.7, it's 3.8 million on the 27 program, just something more, correct? That's what I saw.
Yeah,
Seems like it would be a lot higher numbers.
something with my math.
And then if you go to 28, what do you
And
program?
we had 7 million this morning when we started in 27.
Okay, so now go 28, right? What's left on the table?
8 million.
It's left on the table or down on the printers?
That's what we have left on the table.
So, running the numbers, you got another 12 million of it.
Right. Right.
Why does that seem? I thought we only had 2 million available in 27.
No, we had 7 million.
2.8 million.
Yeah, I wrote down
2.8 million was available in 2027. Total. 31 in 2028.
Any numbers,
No, he said this morning.
We need AI that can do this.
Yeah, and solve it.
That's how we start out the meeting.
So this is the numbers I have on my spreadsheet. Apparently I did, I don't know where I said that. Because
So it's 8.2.
Maybe my dyslexia caused.
8.2 available in 2027, and there is, we program.
This is what I'm showing you.
So Charles, assuming your numbers are correct, and those are the balances down the bottom.
Right here.
Those are the balances remaining to be funded.
Yes. So it seems logical to me that in 27, we could do an intersection improvement sometime. There's a bridge in Charles.
Yes, the bridges are right here.
So you got 3.8 and 27 and 8 million. It seems logical with a, either Kennedy Avenue or Willow Creek, that's important.
You can't do both of them.
Well, are we talking 12?
Or you give them the 12 and you're shuffling it up.
How much do you have left? And of the 3 categories you got to put it in?
I have 5 million available in STBG. HSIP funds, we are overspent. In CMAC, we have 2.7 available.
I'll be able to spend that.
TA, we are overspent, 38,000. CRP, we got 1.9.
Yeah, I can use that.
And Protect, we have 730,000.
So you're not going to use CMAQ and you're not going to use CRP.
So we do have to keep some funds available for CRP and Protect.
Yeah, so you can't use those money on these last categories.
Right.
So totally, what do you have for these last 3 categories then that you can spend it on?
Uh, 8.2 million in 28.
And you got 3 categories?
So So CRP and Protect are 2.6 million.
Okay, but you're not going to be able to use that money for these projects.
Correct.
Okay, so take that off the board. What money do you have that you can spend on these projects?
So going on 2027, going from 3.7 minus 2.6, so I have 1.1.
So 27, you have 1.1, okay. And 28, you have how much?
8 million minus minus 2.6.
So you only have
5.4.
So if Porter County moved Willow Creek Phase 2 to 2029, would that help?
I'm selecting for 2029.
I'm just saying.
I mean, they would have to,
what
they
else
would have
have I
to
got
put
to
in,
do?
they would have to put in for the next NOFA.
Right.
Yeah, there's no
But we
way.
knew we couldn't afford both those projects
That's right. So
this year.
Well, and the other thing is they're both those are tier 3 projects. That's
Right.
lower priority.
Right, and
So you can't, why would you fund 2 of those projects at a lower priority and then not fund the other 2 categories at a higher priority?
So they are in our long-range plan, right?
So,
yeah, so that's the conundrum we're in.
And we said they were legacy, we made this decision, IOU. Right, they agreed in place to correct, and these were like, IOU, we all agreed to fund this. But pull out, Willow Creek or Kennedy.
You go with that, or you never know.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, but tier 3, like
Yeah, tier 3 never, does not have any funds to it.
And that's the argument we had over the winter, that they couldn't take so much more, and they can't take so much over a period of the pit.
Right.
But we recognize they needed to be done for the sake of the region.
Yes.
They were transformational.
And we also realized last November that our 2027 program would be smaller because of the inflation.
So based on the numbers you said you had in 27, and there's two ways you can look at this. We'll just stay in the years what you got there. You had what, 1.6, 1.7, and 27, so
1.1 in 2027.
And then in 28,
5.4.
The way you look at it, you get an intersection improvement of 27.
One project, maybe the intersection, and then show the Kennedy gets started.
Or you can shuffle the deck and make even more of it. I don't
5.4 isn't going to fund it.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe.
Well, it would, if Kennedy Avenue broke up in 2 phases, that would take up that one.
If we did a good portion of Kennedy, if we broke it into 2 phases, I'd assume 2 fairly equal phases. If we went 28-30, that would leave you 29 to do Willow Creek's Bridge.
Right.
That makes sense.
We can do that.
I mean, granted, we'll have this discussion
Again.
in 2 years.
Right.
Can somebody
But,
write that down? Candy's ready.
You know, if everybody's agreeable to have that discussion in 2 years, I think
Right.
Porter County's agreeable to
I think we got to do
move
this
to
on.
2020
We're just now committing to the discussion that we committed to last NOFA with Kennedy and Willow Creek too, and I appreciate Mark bringing that up. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about, and that's why I brought this up earlier, because new roadways is not, when we first started, what's the next category down? Okay, intersection roadway improvements, roadway modifications, but then the following category is new roadways, which we don't have any funds allocated towards because they're tier 3. However, we do have 2 projects that are transformational, that are an asset, will be an asset to the region. So that's why we have, and that's why I brought that up, is because we do have these 2 projects. We could have used that whole $6.8 million on funding roadway modifications. But then we are coming to our transformational projects, which we don't have any funds for.
So if we pick half of one of those phases of Kennedy, then what's left over to fund intersection improvements and roadway modifications?
So if we split Kennedy up into 2 equal phases, that would leave us.
So phase 4 of Kennedy will become phase 4 and phase 5 of Kennedy.
Yes.
So what's phase 3?
You need 10 million?
Yeah.
So it's
when you
still
do the
zero.
5.4, just give it to them.
Still be zero.
Because we are budgeting 40 million when we really only have 37 or so.
Nah, we got 40.
Like
that's right.
So there were 5, or so they would be looking for $5 million.
We can just allocate 5.4 to them, call it good.
Well, there's going to be some adjustments because we're sort of, sort of getting close.
Instead of going out with any residual to an intersection.
I wouldn't spend any more than what you have.
Indeed, you got a good point. You know, what's the cost of Kennedy, phase 4, phase 5?
It was 10 million, right?
For each phase?
Yes, just max it.
breaking it apart.
That's a good question, I don't know.
Just refresh my memory, we were wanting those Porter County and Willow Creek and Kennedy to be on separate years for like risk concerns, if one were was not to go? Or was it to not absorb all the dollars in that year?
To not absorb all the dollars in that year.
What if we did, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure, but we'd have to say whether this is feasible. Why couldn't we just say 2029, we're just gonna do Willow Creek and just gonna do Kennedy? And not even include that year in the NOFA? And just fund those two projects in whole. Dividing them is gonna cost more for Cherville.
Definitely.
And I don't know if you can wait a year and do it all at once, if that's better.
Kathy just brought up an issue I have to check into. I don't know if our NOFA approval, our NEPA approval will allow us to break that into two.
One NEPA for both phases, right?
As long as it has independent
We have
utility.
one NEPA document for all phases.
So you could do one, but if you did NEPA for the whole thing, it's okay to split it up.
We
There
did
has to be
NEPA for the whole
independent
thing.
utility on the bill though. and
Yeah,
like
yeah, there has to be,
design,
you know,
and that could be a problem.
Oh, you have to be able to split it a lot, they rest.
Right.
Right.
So then we
If
could do
that's
a lot
what,
of the well, not a lot, but multiple intersection ones or roadway improvements now, and then none.
None in 29 is absorbed fully by two big projects, and then you move on past that out. I'm not sure.
I like that idea, but I'm not trying to speak for Jeff or.
Yeah, I'm not either, I just
But
thought.
I like that idea. You guys get all sorts of funding.
That's a big full commission decision. I mean, I
No slippage.
well, and the other part, part of that is, for those transformational projects, is that there would be letting in July. Granted, $15 million, July's not a good letting time, but a $15 million or a $12 million project, it doesn't matter what time of the year, you're gonna get preferred. Any contractor's gonna be bidding heavily for that project.
I think to clarify, that we said the first quarter of July, August.
Yeah. Because of the risk, the inherent risk of that. So that way, if it did slip, you've got 8 or 9 months to catch up with that.
Yeah, and you're gonna know as you're going along with the hang-up, you can correct, if you had to, and by adding another project along the lines of a small neighbor or something like that, ahead of time.
So do you think that if we moved both those projects to 29, do you think that needs to go before the commission?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yes.
I thought this tip was through 28.
It is through 28.
We would just be saying there'll be no NOFA for 29, we've got the projects already.
So, time out. I understand you have transformational projects, but in the 2040 and probably in the 2050 plan, there's a commitment to take care of existing infrastructure. That's that's why this was a tier 3 category, was that new roadways were considered kind of a negative to the overall health of the region. And what you're talking about now is funding a whole year of your TIP for two tier 3 projects that flies against what I think is in the 2050, but was in the 2040 plan, of a commitment of this agency to put money toward projects that maintained existing infrastructure to the detriment of new roadway construction. So
I think, Danny,
I'm
that's,
concerned that these two proposed ideas are not in concert with that.
Well,
But that's only a point I want to bring up.
if you're gonna make that point, then the other point should be made that the other 3 phases of Kennedy, and the tracks project being one of those, were quality of place projects. This is the only phase of Kennedy that will have new roadway. And NERC, through this NOFA, requested us to move it to that category, which we agreed to. Had we realized that it would have been a tier 3 and it would have jeopardized our funding, we certainly wouldn't have agreed to
If it
that.
was stayed in Quality Place, what tier would have been?
Charles? I was involved in the winter meetings last month, and to Dennis's point, it was why we decided to make that rule, because these projects would never see the light of day, period. And I think it was agreed by the committee that we should make every effort to make funding for these projects available. I know this writes against what the original planning document, but having seen carries our ways,
We agreed to do this.
we agreed to do this.
Correct.
Regardless, it's up to the leadership of NERC ultimately to decide. That's why we bring it to them, although 2029 is outside the TIF, it's in the bubble. And it really needs to be the decision of the policymakers of the region.
Right.
It's okay with them, maybe we can do that.
I do think that this group is making a commitment to the 27-28 NOFA by moving these two projects to 2029, a commitment to the investment in the improvements to the existing roadway system.
So, Danny, what you said is correct. We do need to take care of what we have, and these are tier 3 projects. We also NERC did in 2016, did put out the regional corridor study, which did recommend some new roadways to correct or to fill in any deficiencies.
These were either the top 2 or in the top 3 of that study.
So that regional corridor study does fly in the face of, in that then too, with your argument. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I know, and I know what you're saying, and I agree with you saying, but these are also transformational projects. We did kind of put those out there, but
Internally needs to come to grips with this, because these are competing ideas. You have transformative projects on one hand, and then you have the mandate and the plan, the long-range plan, to take care of existing facilities. So I think internally, you all need to talk about this, and how do you reconcile these two different things? Because, and you all can do whatever you want to do, as long as it's voted on and everybody decides. You could put these two in 29, and not, their next NOFA would not include funding in 29. It would only include funding in 30. But
wouldn't there would still be a next NOFA?
Yeah.
Because there are other funding categories that need to be selected.
So what I'm hearing is
Live,
you're
right?
committing that in 29 you will fund these two. That means
Right.
that's off the table for 29.
so our next NOFA in 2 years would only be for
1 year.
1 year. And
whatever categories.
right. So now the only problem then is funding for HSIP, CRP, and Protect.
Right, they would still be funded for both years because they're not applicable to the two
Right.
projects.
So we just wouldn't have any SDBG funds or TA funds.
Got into TA? Got into TA? Heck with that. I don't think TA can be applied to.
I could take 50% of the funds from TA and from CMAQ.
CMAQ too, right?
No, to take money from CMAQ to fund road expansion projects, that's asking for Indianapolis and DC and Chicago. That's right.
Actually, according,
Those specific roadway expansions were
Yep.
selected because of congestion benefit for the whole region.
They actually,
So congestion, they
absolutely qualify.
yeah.
I
So-
would say Fred very likely will take CMAQ money towards.
we are allowed to
We're allowed
use,
to, I'm just saying.
We have a mandate for congestion management, and that's the problem is, the federal government gives us conflicting mandates, and all we can do is the best we can do.
I will tell you, Gary, that was, or David, that was discussed with IDEM, EPA, at one of our NEPA document meetings.
And don't worry, people can call him Jerry. It's Colin.
We did have that discussion with both federal agencies in that regard.
And David, the oversight from the Fed, it's heavy on the staff, so don't fear, we disagree with them a lot. And sometimes we will. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't. So, do we want to continue funding this or do we want to? Yes.
Might I suggest that you find some quiet time and run through the number, and you haven't put the escalation numbers in.
They are.
They are? Okay.
With the exception of TOD implementation.
Just that category.
So we could say arbitrarily pick the top two scoring. If we do the 19 thing, or 2029, lost a decade, right, then that leaves more money for the roadway improvement, intersection improvement, 2 decades, whatever. And then we need to pick some of the roadway,
Pick
right?
the top scoring
Yeah,
roadways.
do you guys want to give them a priority for that, or
Well, we already have a priority.
just use the scores?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was it their intersection modifications?
Yeah, those two, yeah.
Remind us.
So we have East Chicago, Hammond, Valparaiso, Hammond, Hobart, Portage, Maryville, Crown Point.
These are all giant projects.
Huge. So the money you're talking about, where do you go? It's like just.
East Chicago, I don't that big.
East Chicago's not that big, Hammond's is big, Valparaiso isn't that big, 2.9. Hammond's Michigan Street is not that big.
Could, Crown Point had a pretty high scoring project with NDOT contributing half as well, which is
Yeah,
an HSIP project.
that's an HSIP project.
Is Munster here? We gave them everything in that category, even though it's less than what they requested, but we have phasing the DDP project. Could that be a smaller number to fund another HSIP project?
For instance, the Crown Pointer is only asking for 1.7 for a roundabout.
They've got NDOT paying for 40%
Half
of that.
Half of that,
Yeah,
50% of that.
Right. Similar with Maryville, they've got NDOT paying for half of that, it stretches the dollar. Or the gold HSIP.
We'd have to get Munster 2 and 3.
No, that was divided, basically looking for what NERC.
Charlie, what is it about?
What's that?
You got left?
6.5, 5.4 and 1.1.
Go back.
Again, how many of those are asking for PE that can be funded out of that money, not construction? Construction has to then pass through money later, just still fund the money.
East Chicago's asking for PE, Hammond is not. Maryville is not. It shows that it's not, but that's because it's all kind of grouped. So they probably are asking for funds. Crown Point is asking. So.
It's the only way it takes PE, you won't be guaranteed funding for
Yes.
construction. Don't take a PE, just take the
What's
construction.
that? Yeah, 216,000.
Unless they want it right.
We can pay the fee, we take everything for construction.
So they're saying that if they get construction, they'll pay their own PE. East Chicago's.
90 days for we got 6 million left, it's roughly 2 million apiece.
I did the top three.
Well, I mean, there's 2 million, there's 2 million, I'm 6.5, 5.5 million. I'll pay my project 2 million, I get you 6 million spread. So I'll do my 66.
Speech tax gets rid of the C.
You're gonna do your own review.
Cool. Sounds like a good idea.
Like, these are the minutes we'll be coming back to in 2029. Chris Murphy said. Jeff trying to retire, he ain't retiring, he's got to stick around.
What's up? I'm sure Candy is loving life.
Sticks it out, the whole thing with no problem.
Because I knew, used to get it, despite.
Dean, how much did you say you wanted?
So, just cost 2 million. Everybody needs 2 million. Valparaiso and Chicago. So I'll pay my project the last year. There's
Never come and ask again.
That's right.
Your band after that, no, forget it here.
To me, it's a good, but I wouldn't want to be sitting on this the full commission and somebody come back door and say, oh, by the way, 2029 is going to be, that's something that I wouldn't want to, without their approval, I just wouldn't.
My current term is over
You're running again.
Yeah, you're a legacy.
He's already a legacy.
He's a legacy himself.
So what is the proposal?
2029 people will hold to the 2023 people.
Where are we?
So we've then allocated for the top three projects as roadway modification, under the roadway modification category, that 6.5 million for the top three projects, which are Michigan Avenue in East Chicago, Columbia Avenue in Hammond, and the roundabout at 130 and 400 in Valparaiso.
And Hama's gonna rephase their project?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a $7 million project. They're going to rephase it and only use $2 million. Now,
2 million
yes,
for the Columbia?
Yeah, we just have to split these.
Okay, that's a third of it, okay.
Come back future years.
so, right. Now, what that means is I would want not only to approve what we just did, but then to have a separate, I would ask TPC to have a separate resolution to recommend or something of that sort to the commission to use 2029 funding for the two transformational projects.
I agree, I think you want that in writing.
Yeah.
You want that.
I guess I have to be.
It'll be a resolution.
Yeah.
I'm getting my road bill.
Huh?
That's my goal. To save.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we state this motion?
So there'll be two different, there's two different motions.
So, motion to approve as amended or corrected Charles's spreadsheet reflecting the projects identified during this meeting. It'd be fun.
Along with I'll second that. Along with some of these caveats that we've agreed to, like limiting, some of these have been limited. Am I correct, or am I?
What's the ones we talked about?
Yeah.
You're talking about the 2 million cans?
Yeah, I mean, just in general.
Funding is amended in today's session.
Second.
Can we see this again after public comment before it goes back to, or goes to the full commission?
It will have to come before this commission again. It will have to come before the TPC again.
Okay.
Because anything that goes before the commission needs to be presented at this committee.
And part of the motion should be before this for the public comment as well, because that's the urgency right now.
This is the draft. Yes.
We have a motion and a second.
That sounds good. Let's do a voice vote, or
roll call.
Roll call, I'm sorry. Yes.
For Porter County Commission, County Rosa. Porter County Surveyor, Kevin Bryce.
Yes.
City of LaPorte, Tom Doherty. Union Township Trustee, George Otto.
Yes.
Town of Chesterton, Mark Adele.
Yes.
City of East Chicago, Anthony Copeland, or Frank Rivera.
Yes.
City of Derry, Jerome Prince. City of Hammond, Dean Button.
Yes.
Town of Westville, Lori Mercer. City of Lake Station, Bill Carroll. Town of Trail Creek, Joshua Denham. City of Valparaiso, Mike Jago.
Yes.
Town of Dyer, Mary Tanis. GPTC, David Wright.
Yes.
South Lake Community, County Community Services, Blossom Mabon. Valparaiso Beeline, Beth Schrader.
Yes.
LaPorte Transport, Beth West.
Yes.
Michigan City Transit, Robin Marzoni Tillman. Nikki, Nicole Barker, or Kelly Langer. Northwest Indiana Forum, Kay Nelson, or Heather Ennis. FTA, Chris Green. NDOT, Jessica Miller, or Julie Ritzler. That concludes the
And the last two are non-voting members.
Correct.
Always appreciate that. Oh.
I have one statement to make. We did not look at Group 2. So what I will do is put together a list of Group 2. There's nobody here to discuss Group 2 projects. Beth West is.
She's
everything. Pressure's on, Beth.
And 20 buses for LaPorte Transport.
Yeah.
That's okay, she'll get them before 2050.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, there was a second resolution or motion that
Let's deal with.
So I will put that together. There's nobody here to discuss that, so I will take the top scores and fund that accordingly. And if I have to adjust the funding amounts to fit I will do that. If I have to give them a haircut, they will get a haircut.
Do you want a motion to give you that direction from this committee, or probably comfortable?
Yeah, probably we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. So moved. Thank you so much, Ron. We'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, say nay. So I suppose we'll just keep on moving then. Now the second.
Make a motion that to transformational projects, Kennedy Avenue, Court, Luxury Road, Court, we listed on fiscal 29. Help me out.
To be prioritized in 2029 above all other projects.
Second.
Let's try a voice vote on that again, or a roll call vote, I'm sorry. Let's do a roll call. And I think staff will put together a resolution. Yes.
George Scott,
Yes.
Mark Odell,
Yes.
Dean Button,
Yes.
Mike Jado,
Yes.
David Wright,
Abstain.
Beth Schrader,
Yes.
Beth West,
Yes.
Let's say that motion passed, and we'll work with staff to put together a resolution for the next Emergency Commission meeting. So, do we have any other business to come before us? We'll go on the topical committees. Anybody with the topical committee reports from staff? If not, thank you, Kathy.
Well, we didn't really talk about those projects, but no, we didn't need, we could talk about projects.
Drive Clean Indiana.
Yes, just got a little update here. So 2022 Diesel Wise Awards for Emergency Green Fleet members. A lot of money came to Northwest Indiana. GE Marshall Electric Construction Recycling, scrap metal recycling for Sims Metals in East Chicago, Indiana, about $830,000. And then we were able to solidify some funding for Metro Ports over at the Port of Indiana, about $504,000. DOE and DOT awarded funding for zero-emission freight corridor planning selections along the I-80 Midwest corridor, really focusing on Northwest Indiana, and that was a $1.5 million award. DCI and NERC are project partners on that. We do have some events coming up with the NTA Work Truck Week Show. It's the March 6th through March 9th, that is next week. We're going to be having a booth there. It's a great event to go and review all the different upcoming equipment that's available. And we're going to be hosting an event for fleet managers. Johnny Van Vliet from City of Hobart will be on the panel. And if you want tickets to the event, please feel free to reach out to them. We have free tickets. The Indiana Rural Sustainable Energy Day is coming up on the 13th of March. We're going to be doing some CE 101 presentations. April 6th, June 1st, and October 5th. All meetings are going to be at 9 a.m. We continue to have Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium meetings, and those are going to be monthly meetings starting in April. Northwest Indiana Earth Day event is coming up on the 22nd of April over at the Porter County Expo Center. And then we have our Northwest Indiana Partners for Clean Air Luncheon Awards on May 5th at the Hammond Arena. There's a whole slew of different funding opportunities that are available. And I have handouts printed out on the table out front. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Ryan? Take it all easy on you today. Just a reminder, we're having the executive commission meeting March 16th for NERC. That'll be at 9 o'clock in this room. And the next PPC meeting will be Tuesday, April 4th at 10 o'clock.
That's just question, clarification. I don't apologize. With the public notice period, how is that going to work with our next meeting? Like when Beth had asked, we're going to get this back to review it.
What's your calendar?
On the calendar.
So, to actually make this work, it needs to be out on the 24th of February. So, at the next TPC meeting, there will be a statement in there that, something to the effect that as of this time, we did not, we've only received these comments, or we did not receive any comments, pending any further minor comments. That's what it'll reflect.
So then maybe at the next TBC meeting, we may have to schedule an additional meeting to get it, or to go to the executive.
No, well, I mean, you'll vote on it to approve it pending, if there's, I'll tell you, if there's any substantial comments.
Interval schedule's blown anyway. But.
Yeah, if there any substantial comments, and a substantial comment would be something to the effect that this is not legal, or something like that. Most of the comments I get are minor, like, why don't you fix the potholes on my street? Which my comment is, well, what street do you live on? I'll talk to the city, and that's the end of it. Or, hey, can you fix the lights on Main Street? Okay, and I call up, or I'll fix the lights on 153rd. I'll call up whoever it is and say, hey, I got this comment, your lights are out. Oh yeah, we're working on it. We're working on sidewalks, whatever it is. Those are the general comments I've received in the past. But we could get a comment where it is substantial and we have to re-pull it and reconvene at a special meeting, re-vote, and send it back out for public comment again, another 30 days. 30 days, so, tonight I'll be working on this. Tomorrow I'll be working on this. Hopefully I can get it finished by Friday. If not, it'll be finished, it'll go out on Monday. So, no, yes, my bike is very long.
It's a good question, because we've been very considerate of this whole process.
We need a special meeting.
Right. All the other projects, I'm trying to get a hold of Talea. I have heard that we have got a good prospect for a transit planner. The other projects are all 5307 or 5339. I've kind of balanced them. I took funds for 5339 is for bus and bus facilities.
Right.
I did kind of take some 5307 funds requested and put it in 5339 to balance that out. I think overall everybody's going to have to get a little haircut.
We need to know this.
Yeah, I know.
We haven't had a single
But
conversation.
right, and transit operators, in the past, transit operators is a working group because they opted to, in the past, they opted to not discuss funding. So therefore, that should be revisited and it should be open to the public so that they could discuss this. And they should have been a topical committee. I'll admit, they should have been a topical committee.
No, I didn't necessarily agree with that decision. But even absent of that committee, just a proposed program of projects or something needs to go out, just so we know where we're at with those funding.
Okay.
37.
Okay.
And 10 and 11, yeah.
By the way, I will be sending out this spreadsheet to everybody, and it does have all the transit projects on there. So, that's something that Alea and myself and Lisa we need to have the transit operators on to go over these projects and informally discuss these projects. I did ask everyone for their input, whether through the NOFA process or to get us so we can submit them.
Any other questions, any observations? If not,
Motion adjourned.
thank you. I knew Mr. Beal was ready. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Unclear, are you just gonna put